So welcome to the review for Unit 8, where we learned about roots, square roots, cube roots, higher order roots, and the Pythagorean theorem. All right, so we learned a trick for any number that ends in a double zero. If you can do the square root of 36, you can do the square root of 3,600. So this is positive 60 and negative 60, right? You add one zero back, not two. It's not 600. And the second one, right, that is the square root of 900ths. So that is the square root of 9 over the square root of 100, also known as 3/10. But since it's a decimal, I would write it as a decimal, 0.3. 0.3 squared is 0.3 times 0.3 equals not 0.9, equals 0.09. It equals that. So the square root of 0.09, 900ths, 0.3, 3/10. There's only one irrational number there. It's the square root of 8, because the square root of 1 is 1, and 4, and 6. Square root of 8 is an irrational number that goes on forever. Number 4, the irrational number, is right there, square root of 27. These three dots, in fact, the first two are the same number twice. Those three dots aren't, you need more than that. It has to go on, that means it goes on forever, but it has to go on forever without a repeating pattern. Right, square root of 225 is 15. Square root of 27 is irrational. Right, that all led up to the Pythagorean theorem. Right, so round the square root to the nearest whole number. Right, so we know square root of 72 is between the square root of 81 and the square root of 64, between 8 and 9. We're in this section. Now, where are we? Let's see, 72 to 81 is 9. 64 to 72 is 8. Ooh, so it's just a little bit closer to 8. This is 8. Now, you've got to read on the test. It says whole number, and you give me 8.4. Wrong. All right, the nearest whole number is 8. Round the square root to the nearest tenth and place on the number line. Okay, so this is a test, so you better be sure whether it's 8.4 or 8.5. I think those are the only realistic guesses. I'm going to start with 8.4. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 8 is 32. 33. 4 times 8 is 32. Carry the 1. Don't cross that out. 8 times 8 is 64. Plus 1 is 65. I've made a mistake. 16. 4 times 8 is 30. 33. 40, 32. 64. Oh, 64, not plus 1. 64 plus 3, 67. Thank you. And then 10, and that is 70.56. That seems very low. All right, let's try 8.5. 5 times 5 is 25. And then 42, maybe I went too fast. If you're on a test, you wouldn't go so fast. 8 times 8 is 64, plus 4 is 68. 5 to 12. Ah, yeah, it is not 8.4, right? That's only 25 hundredths away. It is approximately 8.5. So it would go right there. If I had to put it on a number line, it would go right there. Right halfway between 8 and 9, 8.5. Right, simplify, right? Doesn't say round it. Know the difference. Simplifying. You're looking for 1, 4, 9. You're looking for a factor of this that's on this list, and there it is, 25. So this is the square root of 25 times the square root of 2. So in an answer, you would write the square root of 50 is 5 times the square root of 2. All right, order of operations, right? We have to do our multiplying first. This is a grouping symbol. 12 times 10 is 120. Then you add 24, and you get square root of 144. So that simplifies very nicely to 12. All right, so then this is the square root of 90 over the square root of 64. The square root of 64 is 8. That's easy. Square root of 90. Oh, that has one of those. So square root of 9 times the square root of 10. So we get 3 times the square root of 10 over 8. Is 3/8 simplified? It is, so we're good to go. Solve the quadratic equation. You put the answer is 3 on the test, and you get no points, because x could be 3, and it could also be negative 3. These are quadratic equations. Quadratic equations typically have two solutions. All right, so what could go in this blank? There's two things that could go in the blank. Positive square root of 15 and negative square root of 15. And is the square root of 15 simplified? Yes, it is. Square root of 8. So what could go in this blank? Well, square root of 8 and negative square root of 8. All right, so, but we know that the square root of 8 is trouble because the square root of 8, includes the square root of 4 and the square root of 2. And so this is plus or minus 2 times the square root of 2, right? The square root of 8 always needs to be simplified. 2 times the square root of 2, and you have to show there's two answers to that. There's a lot of trickiness in that very simple problem. This is the cube root, right? So when we have a square root, there's a little 2 there we don't write. The cube root of 1,000 is, blank times blank times blank equals 1,000. Well, 10 times 10 is 100, times 10 is 1,000. This is just 10. There is only, don't put negative 10, all right? The cube roots and square roots are not the same. Square roots, quadratic equations, have the 2. Cube roots have one answer and only one. So the cube, so this is blank times blank times blank equals 64. It's not 8, because 8 times 8 is 64, way too big. I believe it's 4. 4 times 4 is 16 times 16 times 4. So x equals 4 here, This is x equals 4. It's an equation. The previous one was an expression, and I says evaluate the expressions. I have bad, because this should be solve the equation. I have bad instructions there. Typo. All right, so here's another equation to solve. Now remember, it has one solution. What is that one solution? Negative 3. Because negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9 times another negative 3 is negative 27. X squared equals negative 16. All right, this has no solution. It's not possible. Okay. If one leg of a right triangle is 9 inches long, so we're using Pythagorean theorem now. So we have legs, one leg squared plus the other leg squared equals the hypotenuse squared. So one is 9, one is 12, and we're finding the hypotenuse. 9 squared is 81, 12 squared 144, that equals h squared. 144 plus 81 is 225, and so positive and negative square roots of 225, we don't need the negative square root. H equals 15, and this is a word problem that has units, 15 inches. For these, you really only need one side because they're going to be symmetrical. What's missing though? Is a leg missing or a hypotenuse missing? A leg is missing, so we have a leg squared plus 10 squared. The hypotenuse here is this wire, 26. So we have L squared plus 100. 26 times 26 is 676. Subtract 100 from both sides. L squared equals 576. So the answer is going to be the positive and negative square roots of 576, but we don't need the negative. And so L, square root of 576 is 24, and these were feet. From the top, not to the whole pole, but from the top of the wire down to the ground is 24 feet. Find the missing length. Okay, what's missing here? A leg or a hypotenuse? That's the hypotenuse over there. There's the 8. So this is a leg that's missing. And if you don't realize that, you're going to mess up. So we have to do the square root of 15 squared, This is a little lower than 4, Because square root of 16 is 4. So we have L squared, square root of 15 squared, 15. 8 squared, 64. Subtract 15 from both sides. L squared equals 14 minus 5 is 9, and 5 minus was 49, It's 7 and negative 7, but we just need 7 is the question mark. Okay, so A, B, and C. Now, so the 8 has to be our potential hypotenuse, It's not a hypotenuse if this isn't a right triangle. So we take the two short sides, which have to be the legs, and see if this is all true. 4 squared is 16, 7 squared is 49. That equals 64. 49 plus 16 And I get 5. 65 does not equal 65. It's 4. It's greater. So 65 is greater than 64. So the leg side, these are the legs, is greater than the hypotenuse side. And when the leg side is greater, that's acute. All right, not a right triangle if that math doesn't work out. So let's try this one. Again, the 10 has to be our potential hypotenuse. 25 plus 64 equals 100. 25 plus 64, 89. 89 is less than 100. Again, not a right triangle. Its leg side is less, so it's obtuse. All right, the distance, right? Diagonal distances, you need the Pythagorean, you need the distance formula or the Pythagorean theorem. So we're going to make a triangle here. 1, 2, 3, 4. One leg is 4, one leg is 1. So we have 4 squared plus 1 squared equals h squared. 4 squared is 16, 1 squared is 1. So 17 equals h squared. And so the distance here is the square root of 17. Right? Positive and negative, but we don't need the other one. I'm just going to erase it here. So square root of 17 is the exact answer. So if I ask for the exact answer, you look at that, you see if it's simplified, which it is, and you're done. But it doesn't say that. It says round to the nearest tenth. Well, the square root of 16 is 4. So this probably is 4.1. Let's just double check, because it could be closer to 4 than 4.1. That is possible. And we get 1681, move that. All right, so that's pretty dang close. I'm going to say this is approximately 4.1 units. All right, Dave drives around the lake from work. He drives 8. Oh, this should be from home. He drives 8 miles west. I wrote this wrong. From home. All right, it should be to work or from home, because he drives 8 miles west this way and 6 miles north. Yes, okay. All right, so to get there, if he could drive straight there, how far would he have to drive? So it's 8 squared plus 6 squared equals h squared. We've done this one many times. You probably already know the answer, right? 100 equals h squared. Square root of 100, right, are 10 and negative 10, but we need 10 miles, right? It's 10 miles straight there, but he has to do the 2 legs, do 8 and 6, which is a total of 14 miles, 4 extra miles there. All right, so the distance, right? You could draw it all out and graph it, but then we learned that there's this formula. So you can subtract your x coordinates. So we can do -5 minus 0 squared, which is -5 squared, which is 25. Then we can add that to -8 minus 4 squared. -8 minus 4 is 12. -12, so -12 squared. Notice it doesn't matter that it's -12 because -12 times -12 is 144. And then you get the square root of 169, and d equals 13, right? You don't have to cross anything out because you're writing it using that big, huge positive square root symbol. Okay, let's practice here. All right, this is a quadratic equation. That means it typically has 2 answers. I say typically because x squared could equal 0, and then it would have 1 answer. But so x squared, or if it equals a negative, it has no answers, right? And so we have x would equal 80 and -80. Cubic equation has 1 answer. In this case, -5, because -5 times -5 times -5, right? 2 negatives make a positive, but then you multiply it by another one, and you get the -125. So be careful. I get people who give me 2 answers for the cubic equations. That's only for quadratics. Right, because 80 times 80 is 6,400, and -80 times -80 also 6,400. Which is irrational? Only one of those is irrational. It's right there, the square root of 15. Square root of 16 is 4. That's -5. Negative square root of 25. Repeating decimals, even if I write them with the 3 dots, are rational. Okay, so what's missing here? A leg or a hypotenuse? A leg is missing. So we're leg squared plus 6 squared equals 9 squared. It says exactly how far is the bottom of the ladder from the wall. All right, so L squared plus 36 equals 81. Subtract 36 from both sides. L squared, we're going to borrow. We get 5. So L is exactly the square root of 45. Uh-oh. All right, so that's an irrational square root. And just like before, in your earlier days, do I have to simplify 3/6 to 1/2 always? Do I have to simplify square root of 45? Yes, you do, because it's the square root of 9 times the square root of 5. This is exactly 3 times the square root of 5 feet, which is an awfully weird thing to say, but that is the exact answer here. Right? Square root of 45 is approximately, right, square root of 49 is 7, so it's a little less than 7 feet. Oh, round the answer to the nearest tenth now. So you better read your test problems to see which one it is, right? So this is between 6 and 7, and it's 4 away from 7 and 9 away. All right, so we're gonna have to make a reasonable guess here. So I'm gonna guess 6.7. So let's see how 6.7 is. 7 times 7 is 49. 42 plus 2 is 46. Stepping over to the next row, 42. 6 times 6, 36. 40. 9, 8, 44.89. That is awfully close. So I did a good guess. So it's approximately 6.7 feet. Right? Word problems have words on them in their answers. All right, final question. So we're using the distance formula here. All right, you can subtract your x's. -4 minus 8 squared plus subtract the y's. -6 minus 10 squared. That'll equal the distance. Right, this is -4 minus 12, -12 squared. -6 minus 10, -16 squared. And so we get square root of 144, 16 times 16. Again, we don't do that one that often. 256, okay. And then we're going to add 256, add the 144 to that. Oh my goodness. And we get the square root of 400. And so D is 20. You don't have to cross anything out because you used the positive square root symbol. Right? Good luck on the test.